Hey guys, welcome back to the garage. Back for part two of the Survivor series. We're looking today at three classic Mopars. What we're going to take a look at here is a 72 Barracuda, a 1970 GTX, and a 1970 Dodge Challenger. Again, these are part of my dad's collection of models. Now, the last video we talked about the 40 Ford Coupe and the 36 Ford Coupe, which were ones that he'd done when he was young, upper high school there. These he'd done obviously later on. These we're going to fast forward about 10, 11, 12 years or so, I guess. Early 70s, obviously. This is kind of what I grew up on. I kind of grew up around the Mopars. We had our family car from the time I was just young, was a 75 Chrysler Cordoba. And we took that car everywhere. I mean, that was with our vacations and just everywhere in that car. Great riding car that was. And so I've been around the Mopar scene, and these were some of my favorites that Dad had in his cabinet there that I would look at quite often. So we're just going to break these down. We're going to start with the center one first. Now I'm going to move these guys out over here to the side, because when we get that up, I'm going to pull it up here in front of you there so we don't have any obstructed background there. So this is the 1970 Johann GTX. And according to scale mates, this car was really released one time in 1970. Now, over the years, he's lost his front bumper. Don't know where the bumper went. But I did get on eBay one time and tried to find him another one, and I was bidding on it, and I got outbid at the last second, literally last second. So I come up short on that, but I'm still searching for one. So, but this car, again, classic Johann kit, you can tell. So you got the pins back here, the body pins. And if I don't miss my guess, this probably is the same chassis that would have been on the 70 Superbird Johann kit. So we'll just move this guy around. It had the side windows in it. You could put side windows in it there. And of course, that classic split rear tail lights. And again, they had and I don't know if they called these Johann's annual kits or not, but most of them had the date stamped right there in the bumper. And then the GTX there. And this, being the GTX, was actually on the Belvedere line, and the base engine in this would have been the 440. And I believe that could have been with a 4-barrel carb, or you get the 6-pack in that with the air grabber hood. Now this example happens to be, and look at that. Look, you got that front axle and that rear axle lowered down a little bit, like he's pulling a hole shot there. That looks pretty cool. But Dad had a 70 Roadrunner, but they didn't have the Roadrunner kit at the time, so he got the GTX, and his was the B5 Blue, which he's basically replicated in this kit. And he had the bench seat interior, and this has the bucket seats. That's going to be kind of hard to see in there, but it's got the bucket seats, the dog leg shifter there, pistol grip. And this example has, get the hood off there, has the Hemi in it. So you got the Mickey Thompson valve covers there. And I don't know if this kit had another option for another engine. I really don't know. But this, like I said, would have been released in 1970, and it would have been, I believe this was the Boss kit. Again, as far as I could tell in my research that I did on this kit, was 1970. It was just the only release of that GTX kit in 1/24 scale. But just a really nice, I mean, this is a piece of modeling history right here, because I don't know that there are that many more of these left around. I mean, there could be a lot of them left yet, but It's one of your more rare kits, being I think it was only had that 1 year release. So that's the 70 GTX. Johann. Classic. What a classic. Two-door hardtop. And I think Dad's Roadrunner was a sport coupe. I think it had the post right here on it. And that interesting back window design. Now on the Superbird, that would have had that filler panel and been more, not really an oval, but more of an oval shape down in here, kind of rounded off, because they put those filler panels in it for the aerodynamics, I guess, for the track. We got the Star wheels, or I guess they call them Magnum 500 wheels on there. But just an out-of-the-box build, and Dad probably built this right around 1970, I would assume. So that's our first example. So we'll set him back here. Now I think we'll take a look at the Challenger over here. 1970 Challenger. Now these, I talked to Dad about these, and get it down there where you can see it. That's always an issue, isn't it? I'll get it straightened out here sooner or later. I talked to Dad about these, and he initially had thought in his memory that these were AMT kits. But I looked on ScaleMates again, and really the only thing I was coming up with was mainly MPC. I know it's not necessarily a favorite brand of a lot of guys, but that I believe is what this kit is. And check this out. We'll go to the bottom first. Look at there. Old screw bottom there in the back. Now the front, I'm going to drop this hood before I drop it on the floor. Now this front was glued down, but your back there had the screws in it. I always thought that was cool. Now later on, in later years, I think those would have just had those are just like a blank, basically, because they just started, I think they started going to the post in there, and you fit it up in the back of the body that way with just a plastic pin, or if it might have not even been a plastic pin like the Johann, but it would have had a post already on it and just fit up into a boss up on the underside of the body there. So, and this is the RT, their Challenger RT, and he's got a set of, looks like, I'm not sure what style of wheels. I don't think you'd call that a Krager. Forgive me, that guy. Some of you guys would know. And again, this probably was what they might have called an annual kit. Had the year right on the bumper. The reason I believe this is MPC is because this look to me looks classic MPC right here. The way they did the front axle there, without the axle all the way through, just in the pins. Which kind of give you that, and it was hard to get around this, that classic excessive camber at the top there. But just another good example of an old kit that survived the years. And it's got the Hemi engine in that. And this is an automatic option. Hemi automatic. Would have been the 727 transmission. And then with the, if we can see this, pause it, there you go. See right there, it's got this, like the old slapstick shifter. Back. Now I always thought on these newer cars, these retro cars, I think Dodge nailed it with the Challenger. I think it's, of all those that they've done, that really comes close to capturing the appearance of the original Challengers. So they done, obviously, there's no more steel bumpers on them, but I think they've done a pretty good job of capturing the shape and the feel of the old Challengers. Now, there's an interesting thing here about maybe not necessarily this kit, but Dad had a 70 Roadrunner and a 70 Challenger. And the Challenger that he bought was a 318 car, and it was the first car sold in his hometown in 1970. A dealership there in town, and he ended up getting the first one. I think it ended up having an issue. It ended up having an issue with the carburetor, I think it was. So he ended up trading it, and I think he traded the Challenger in on the Roadrunner. So just a little bit of that story, but he got these cars because he had real ones like it, so he just wanted the models to match. So just another, I'll wear this phrase out, but just another neat example of some old kits, finished kits. I always liked the front end of the 70s. Okay, so we'll put that E-body down, and we'll go to the next one. Now this one's a little bit interesting too. Now for the 72 Cuda. Now this kit I believe also is an MPC because the configuration, and I'm going to take, these hoods are just setting on it. I'm going to take the hood off for now. And again, from the opposite end, screw bottom. And we got the same type of setup of front suspension. So I believe that this, and I'm going to set this guy down a second. I want to show you another car. That's mine I had done years and years ago. And he's a little dirty. He's been sitting up here. But I know this is an MPC kit. And see here, and it's the same setup basically. But if you look on this, now this is a 71, I think this was actually a Roadrunner, 71 Roadrunner. If you look at this, there's those blanks. See here where the screws would have been. We'll just hold them side by side. See where the screws would have been. Now you have blanks there. So apparently just got away from the screw bottom and then just went to the pins with the bosses. Okay, so that's why I believe these two are actually MPC kits. So we'll bring this one back up. Now this one's got some differences. And take that back in. Now see, I always liked the back end of the 72 the best because of the round taillights. And again, that's got the 72 stamped right on or molded right in with the license plate there. Got the rally wheels on it. Now this engine option is that up there where you can see it, Eric. This engine option is actually not accurate to the car because the largest engine for the 72 would have been the 340. With the oil embargo and all that problem going on in insurance companies, and so I guess they detuned the 340, and that was the largest engine you could get in the 1972. And the other interesting thing about the 72 was the convertible was no longer an option. You could only get the hardtop coupe. I think hardtop or coupe. Don't quote me on that one, but this body style I believe was all you could get that year. And an interesting thing to note, if you ever notice on the Brady Bunch, there was I think they had a 71 Cuda convertible on there. Remember the one time Greg went on his date and had to take his little brother Bobby with him, and Bobby ended up sticking the umbrella through the convertible top. Well, if you watch the later episodes, they're still driving the blue Barracuda, but now it's a 72 convertible. They never made a 72 Barracuda convertible. So what my thoughts were, either they just changed the tail panel out of the 71, but my guess is not, because I believe the grills are different. I think the 71 had 4 headlights, I believe. And there's a lot of other Mopar guys out there that would know right away if that's a fact or not. So you can let me know in the comments. But I believe the 71 had the 4 headlights in it. So I figured either they changed the tail panel, but my guess is they just whacked the top off of that car, which would have really pretty much deemed it just a studio car, because that would have really, really weakened the strength of it, because I believe the underneath side was different on the convertibles. So just a little note on that. So what MPC did, and I believe this, I'll call it MPC because I believe that's what this is. If any of you guys know, like I've always said, please leave in the comments section and let me know for sure. But I believe it's MPC just by the way it's configured here. But what they did, I think they just carried this over from the previous year and just put that engine in it. But 72 did not have the Hemi available in it, or any of the other big blocks. So that was an interesting note on that I found out. But this had option. It probably had an option for a high rise because, you know, Dad opted to put the scoop on the hood. Just cut the hole out there and put the scoop on the hood. So, but again, I'll say it again. And this one he never painted. This is still the plastic white. And I thought that looks good in white, actually. But I always thought those looked nice with like maybe a blacked out tail panel on there. But just another good out of the box build. Piece of history. Another piece of automotive history. So one of my favorite makes, you know, was Chrysler products. I guess I grew up around quite a few of them. Dad had the, I was too young to remember the Roadrunner. I never knew about the Challenger. I wasn't born yet for the Challenger. But he had a 72 or a 73 Duster, 340, automatic with a bench seat. And of course he had some Mopars back in the day. You know, he was in the service. He had a 58. I think it was a 58 Fury with a 57 DeSoto Hemi in it, I think he said. So he had some Mopars in his day. But I just wanted to show you guys these. Again, it's, you know, all part of my dad's collection and some of the stuff that have survived over the years. So I'm going to put the hood back on this guy. And then I'm going to bring this GTX front and center. And we'll just set these here as we talk just a little more here and close out. But just wanted to share these with you guys too. I mean, I've always liked these cars. Again, they were in the cabinet, the same cabinet as the two coupes were. And same thing again. And there's the thing. Those doors were never locked. And but we knew it was look only and don't touch. And they had the glass doors on there, so I'd stand there and I'd just look at these cars. Now he had another Challenger that he had painted it purple, kind of like a light purple, and I think he gave that to my cousin at one point in time. So he had actually 270 Challengers, but these were the old Mopars that he had in the cabinet, and I just wanted to put them on the bench, show you guys that here in our second part. And I think I forgot to mention on the Challenger, on the RT, now your standard Challenger, I believe was a 225 6-cylinder. I think you probably get the 6-cylinder in a basic Challenger, and then the 318 or the 340, I believe. And then the RT, the base was a 383 Magnum, or you get the 440, or was available on a Hemi. So just not only a history on these little cars here, but also a little small one there on the real deal. But that's what we're dealing with here, right, guys? Replicas of the real thing. So it's neat to know the history of the real cars when you're going to be going into building the models. So you've got a good base to build around, and like what I like to do I like to do factory stock, and I like to get it as close as I can to how the car would have really been, you know, like from the factory. So with that, I think I'll wrap this one up tonight, and just want to thank you for dropping back by the garage. let me take the time to show you these three classic Mopars, part of my dad's collection again. So stick around, come back for part 3. We're going to be looking at a couple more other classic coupes. So step back in when you can. If you like the video, hit the like button, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified whenever I post a new video. So thanks a lot, guys. I'm going to back on out. This is Eric from Eric's Model Garage, and we'll catch you next time. Have a great day. God bless you, and happy modeling.